During a luxury dinner, a dirty little girl bursts into the room, stares at the millionaire, and whispers something that chills the blood. "Uncle, she poisoned your cake." In seconds, everything turns into a nightmare. He switches the plates, and hours later, a revelation changes his life forever. Kaio had already adjusted his shirt cuff 4 times since he walked in. His new watch sparkled too much, and he kept glancing at it with a kind of unease. But it was just nerves, speaking loudly. The restaurant was the fancy kind. Dim lights, waiters in dark jackets with folded napkins over their arms, and a piano in the background that seemed to breathe. A woman wearing a pearl necklace passed by and smiled sweetly. He smiled back, but his eyes never left the door. Lorena hadn't arrived yet. She was always a little late, but he didn't mind. In fact, it gave him time to rehearse everything he wanted to say. He took a deep breath, signaled to the waiter, and ordered a glass of water. He tried to look calm, but his hands were shaking. In the inside pocket of his jacket, the ring felt heavier than it should, and it was real gold. He had it custom-made with a green stone, her favorite, which he had discovered by overhearing a phone call. When Lorena walked in, it was as if time stopped. She was stunning, hair up with a few loose strands, soft makeup, a black dress in perfect harmony with her lipstick. She moved with the grace of someone who knows exactly the effect she has. Kaio jumped up, pulled out her chair, and kissed her cheek, masking the impatient desire to get to the real reason for the evening. He pretended it was just another romantic dinner. "Am I late?" she asked, already smiling. "A few minutes, but it was worth the wait," he replied, trying to sound confident, though his voice trembled a bit. They started with white wine, one of those that waiters describe like fine perfumes. Kaio didn't even hear the name. He just wanted everything to go smoothly. Lorena ordered salmon with lemon risotto. He ordered the same, not wanting to take any risks. They talked about her job, the new boutique opening, and a possible trip next month. Kaio was starting to loosen up, laughing at her jokes, sharing some absurd office stories. Everything seemed to flow. The place was full, but the atmosphere was mellow, like time moving in slow motion. Couples gazed into each other's eyes, quiet toasts, dishes served with the care of a jeweler. Kaio watched it all and felt more convinced with every second. This was the best decision of his life. Before Lorena, there had only been work and silence. With her, he'd found a partner, in dreams, in problems, even in the quiet. When they finished the main course, the waiter arrived with the dessert menu. Lorena immediately pointed to the molten chocolate cake, her favorite. Kaio ordered the same, though he knew he wouldn't actually eat it. He hadn't touched food all day from anxiety, but he had to look composed. The most important part of the evening was still coming. Lorena picked up her phone, checked a few messages, and said she was going to the bathroom. Kaio nodded with a smile and seized the moment. He took the ring out of his pocket, opened the small box under the table, and looked at it one last time. The ring sparkled, perfect, under the chandelier's soft light. In his mind, the scene was clear. She would laugh, maybe cry, and finally say yes. He was sure of it. Only at that very moment, everything changed. A sudden noise, like tiny running footsteps, made Kaio turn instinctively. And there she was. A girl, maybe 7 years old, appeared in the restaurant's doorway as if she'd just escaped a nightmare. Messy hair, a pink dress stained with dirt, and dried blood on her knee. Barefoot, sweaty, eyes wide and breathless. The guests noticed her. Some looked up, but no one moved. She walked straight toward Kaio's table, like she knew exactly where to go. He didn't move. A waiter was approaching to gently but firmly escort her out. But before anyone could say a word, the girl leaned toward him and whispered, "Sir, she poisoned your dessert." The world seemed to stop. Kaio couldn't speak. He just stared at her, heart pounding in his chest. "You have to switch the plates. She put something in it when no one was looking. I saw her." The waiter touched her shoulder. "Hey, sweetie, you can't be here." The girl flinched, looked at the waiter, then turned back to Kaio with an expression full of urgency. "Please, Listen, I saw it, I swear. Kaio slowly stood up. It's okay. Let her stay with me for a moment. The waiter hesitated, but eventually stepped away. The girl was trembling, but it wasn't the fear of being scolded. It was real fear, the kind that comes from actual danger. What's your name? Luna. Luna, are you sure about what you saw? She nodded firmly, her eyes wide, locked on his. I was by the door, asking for food. I saw her pull out a little jar and put something in the cake. I just wanted to help. Kaio glanced toward the bathroom. Lorena hadn't returned yet. Then, with a shaky but decisive gesture, he swapped the 2 slices of cake. It seemed simple, but the weight of that action was immense. Luna saw it and nodded. Now go. No one can see you here. Run. She didn't wait. She darted off, her little dress fluttering and her bare feet tapping against the shiny floor. A waiter tried to stop her, but she was already out the door. Kaio sat back down. His hands shook more than before. He stared at the cake in front of him. Molten chocolate, delicious smell, flawless appearance. But now, it all looked like poison. His head was spinning. His heart was beating so fast he almost didn't hear Lorena return. She came back smiling, freshly perfumed, hair in place. What's that face? You look like you've seen a ghost. He forced a smile. Nothing. Just thinking about the dessert. She laughed and sat down. Oh, because I've been dying to try it. Kaio watched her as she took the first spoonful and brought it to her mouth. He tried to stay expressionless, but his stomach twisted. The sound of the spoon scraping the plate made his skin crawl. Lorena closed her eyes and smiled. Oh my God, it's delicious. Kaio nodded silently. Inside, chaos had just begun, and he had no idea where this was all going to lead. Kaio tried to keep his gaze calm, but inside it was hell. He smiled at Lorena, but in his head, he still heard the girl. She poisoned your cake. It was a constant alarm. He knew something was terribly wrong, but he had to stay normal. Carry on like nothing happened. Buy time. Find out if it was a mistake, a trick, or if there really was poison. Lorena laughed at a light joke, relaxed. He pretended to listen, but his eyes scanned the restaurant, the waiters, the entrance. Was the girl still there? Had anyone seen her? Security? Nothing. As if nothing had happened, and that unnerved him even more. She finished the cake, scraped the last bit from the plate, wiped her lips with the napkin and sighed in satisfaction. Wow, that was divine. Better than last time. Kaio stared at his untouched plate. Then the waiter arrived. Everything all right, sir? The check, please, he said firmly. The waiter nodded and walked away. Lorena raised an eyebrow, surprised. I thought we'd order another glass. I'm tired, he said. It's been a long day. I get it. She went back to checking her phone, adjusting her strap. The silence between them wasn't tense, but it wasn't exactly natural either. Lorena seemed distant, giggling at a message, looking around, as if nothing had happened. And that threw him off even more. The bill came, and Kaio paid without looking at the amount. He took the ring box and put it back in his pocket. He already knew the night wouldn't end the way he had imagined. They left arm in arm. She commented on the cold. He replied with a brief smile. The parking lot was empty. It was a Wednesday night, not many people. They got in the car. Kaio started the engine and sat there for a few seconds. Are you really okay? She asked calmly. Yeah, my head's just a bit foggy, work. I know. You always get like this when you're stressed. He didn't answer. He turned on the radio, kept the volume low, and started driving in silence. Lorena understood it wasn't the time to talk. When they got home, they took the elevator. He tried to look calm, but the image of the girl wouldn't leave his mind. The fear, the voice, the urgency. It hadn't been a lie. That night, he barely slept. In the morning, his phone buzzed, a notification from the restaurant's security cameras. As a VIP customer, he had access to the footage. He submitted a request and 2 hours later received the link. He opened the laptop and fast-forwarded the footage to the cake moment. And there she was, the little girl running, pink dress, barefoot, scared. She stayed near his table for only a few seconds. Then a man appeared. black cap, dark jacket, head down. He grabbed the girl by the arm and took her away. The door was out of frame. Nothing else was visible. Caio paused the video and let out a sigh. It wasn't his imagination. It had really happened. He called the restaurant and spoke to the manager. The man vaguely remembered the girl and attempts to get her to leave, but thought it had been a prank. "Do you know the girl?" Caio asked. "No, never seen her." "Then why so concerned?" There was a pause before he answered. "Because I think she saved my life." Silence on the other end. "I can try to find some footage from outside, but the man's face is blurry. It'll be hard to ID him." Caio thanked him and ended the call. He wasn't someone who believed things easily, but this story smelled like truth. The girl had appeared, said exactly the right thing, then vanished. And there was that man, like he'd been waiting for her. But the most disturbing part was something else. Lorena. She hadn't asked a single question about the girl, showed no curiosity, as if nothing had happened. Or maybe she already knew too much. Caio stared at his phone like he was looking into an abyss. For a moment, he thought about calling Lorena, confronting her. "Who are you really?" But something held him back. That night, instead, he decided to dig. He typed her full name into his computer and began searching everywhere. At first, it was just the usual social profiles, perfect photos, expensive trips, famous friends. All normal, but Caio wanted more. He dove into forgotten forums, tax ID verification sites, old online archives. Then, in a news article from 3 years earlier, he found a name almost identical to hers. A woman involved in a scam and suspected in the death of a businessman. There was a photo. He clicked. It wasn't Lorena, but she looked far too similar not to be connected. The next morning, he woke before his alarm. Sleeping really was just a word. He'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, mind overloaded. The image of the girl haunted him, those scared eyes, that steady voice. Now, with doubts about Lorena, everything felt even darker. He got dressed blindly, grabbed his phone, and went down to the car. Sitting behind the wheel, he took a deep breath and reopened the video. He paused on the moment the man dragged the girl away. The face hidden by a cap, but you could see an unshaven beard, a thin chain, and most importantly, one key detail, a tattoo on his left hand, small, black, shaped like a trident. That could be a lead. He closed the laptop, started the car, and drove to the restaurant. It was early. The place was still being prepped. The manager, a friendly man with grey hair and a light blue shirt, was already there. Caio got straight to the point. "Did you manage to recover the footage from outside?" The manager showed the video. Caio skipped ahead to the right moment. The girl appeared on the sidewalk, cautious. Then a grey car parked, no license plate visible. A man got out, looked at his phone, waited across the street. It was the same man from the indoor footage, same cap, same jacket. The girl crossed and entered the restaurant. Moments later, he followed. The video froze right as he disappeared through the door. "Will this help?" the manager asked. "A lot. Can you send me this file, please?" He left the restaurant with the USB stick in his pocket and his mind in a storm. He needed to decide whether to go to the police. But what if it was all a misunderstanding? What if the girl had lied? Or what if it was part of a bigger scheme? He had to know. He opened WhatsApp and wrote, "I forgot something at the restaurant yesterday. Can we meet there again around 5? Won't take long." Lorena replied with a voice message. "Sure, see you there. Everything okay?" "All good. Easier to explain in person." As soon as he hung up, Caio's brain was in full gear. He went to a pharmacy and bought 2 desserts identical to the ones from the restaurant, chocolate with filling. He also bought 2 similar takeout containers. At home, he pulled out an old lab kit, a gift from a friend who studied pharmacy, and filled small vials with fake labels. Just props, but believable ones. That afternoon, he returned to the restaurant and asked for the same table as the night before. He set everything up. The 2 identical desserts, one marked underneath with a blue pen, the other not. He called the waiter over. "I'm expecting someone. It needs to look like a normal dinner, that's all." The waiter raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. At exactly 5 p.m., everything was ready. Now all he had to do was wait. Lorena walked in with that smile that seemed to light up her whole face. She gave him a quick kiss on the cheek, pulled out her chair, and sat across from him. "What's with the thriller mood? What did you forget here?" she asked playfully. Kaio gave a small smile, like someone who knows something the other doesn't yet. "Actually, I wanted to show you something. It's an idea, a new project I'm working on." "Oh, something culinary?" she asked with an amused smirk. "Sort of," he said, pulling the 2 jars closer and removing the lids. "I did a comparison. 2 flavors, 2 textures. I want you to tell me which one you prefer, without knowing which is which." "Come on, you called me here for this?" Lorena laughed. "Trust me, just taste them." She picked up the spoon, clearly playing along, and dipped it into the right jar, the marked one. She tasted it. "Wow, this one's amazing." Kaio watched her carefully, noting every little gesture. "Now try the other." She did, and this time made a slight face. "Sweeter. I prefer the first one." Kaio smiled again. "I knew it. And now, want to know what was inside?" "Of course." But first, he pulled out the laptop, set it on the table, and played a video. Lorena's face turned serious. "What is this? Recognize anyone?" Kaio asked. She leaned toward the screen. "Yeah, that girl from last night. The one who came in with that man. But that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out." Lorena narrowed her eyes at him. "Are you accusing me of something, Kaio?" He stayed silent. "Because if you are, I'm leaving right now." "I'm just trying to understand," he said softly. "I have no idea who they were, I swear." "Then help me find out. If someone was targeting me and you were with me, maybe I wasn't the real target." Lorena looked him in the eye. She was tense, but not scared. "Are you saying you think I was the target?" "I don't know what to think anymore. After that night, everything feels strange. Didn't it seem odd to you that a little girl walked in here alone?" "Yes, but I figured you didn't want to talk about it. Everything happened so fast." Kaio nodded. The conversation lightened a bit, and eventually, Lorena said she had to leave. She gave him a quick kiss, grabbed her bag, and walked out. As soon as she turned her back, Kaio took out his phone and photographed the spoon she'd used. Then he slipped it into his pocket. The next day, he brought that spoon to a friend's lab. He didn't say much, just that it was a personal matter. Later that afternoon, he got the call. "Kaio, there was something. Traces of a strong substance. Not something common. It's a restricted use compound. Small dose, but dangerous." Kaio ended the call and sat on the nearest bench. The plan had worked. Lorena had fallen for the trap. She'd started poisoning again. That night, he didn't go straight home. He parked on a quiet street, turned off the engine, and just sat there staring at the steering wheel. He had just gotten confirmation. The dessert was contaminated. The substance found on the spoon was real, potent, something that with the right dose could kill. A weight sat on his chest. Like every step closer to the truth made things harder to bear. He couldn't pretend anymore that everything was normal. Lorena had tried to kill him. That was now clear. What wasn't clear was why. He kept asking himself, why? And then there was Luna. The image of that little girl flashed through his mind like lightning. Her words echoed in his head. "She poisoned your cake." He could no longer convince himself it was just a child's outburst. It was real. And if Luna hadn't walked into the restaurant that night, he might not be alive now. With his heart pounding in his chest, Kaio grabbed his phone and opened his chat with Lorena. He stared at her name, thought about messaging her, starting a conversation, seeing if she would say anything more. But he closed the app. It wasn't enough. He needed something solid. He had to dig deeper. In the following days, he tried to stick to his routine, work, emails, meetings, but it all felt mechanical. His mind was consumed by one question. Who was Lorena really? A friend of his, an expert in cybersecurity, agreed to help. He wasn't a cop, but he was good with computers. He had worked on corporate investigations and knew the right people, knew where to look. Kaio gave him everything, full name, ID, tax number, every detail he had. In exchange, he asked for complete discretion. 2 days later, the phone rang. It was his friend, and his voice carried something unsettling. "Man, I found something. Her name is real, yes, but only in recent documents. Before that, she went by another name, Juliana Braga." A chill ran down Caio's spine. Juliana Braga. That name reminded him of something dark, a news story from a few years ago. A businessman had been found dead in a hotel in Curitiba, and the woman with him vanished that same night. The woman, Juliana. That's right. Silence fell like a shadow inside the car. Caio sat still, his face expressionless, but inside he felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. And that wasn't all. His friend continued. Juliana had also been investigated for fraud in Belo Horizonte 3 years earlier. The police never found concrete evidence, but there were traces of suspicious transactions, cloned cards, fake accounts, strange transfers to offshore tax havens. And the strangest thing, all the victims were wealthy men who had some kind of relationship with her. Caio hung up and just sat there, speechless, stunned. It was as if he had walked into an invisible trap, like he'd opened his home to a snake and even offered it coffee. That same night he arranged a meeting with Lorena, but this time at a different place, a new restaurant she wanted to try. He agreed, already knowing what he was going to do. He arrived early, asked for a quiet table and waited. When she arrived, she looked more elegant than usual. Perfect hair, strong perfume, high heels. Caio stood up, kissed her cheek, and acted like everything was normal. Lorena talked excitedly about a trip, a new company, a charity event. Caio pretended to listen, but every word sounded like it came from someone else. Now that he knew the truth, everything felt fake, rehearsed. After the main course, the waiter suggested the house dessert. "That chocolate cake you like so much," he said, trying to sound casual. Lorena smiled. "Ah, you remembered, of course. We have to relive that night, right?" She laughed. "Let's just hope no kids come running around this time." She joked. The comment caught Caio off guard. He froze, looked her in the eyes. "You saw her?" Lorena played it cool. "Of course. I was coming out of the bathroom, but I thought you didn't want to talk about it. Why didn't you say anything right away?" he asked. She shrugged. "I don't know, it was just a scared kid. I thought it would be awkward. Thought you'd be upset." Caio realized it slowly. This was new. Until now, she had pretended not to see the girl. Now she claimed she saw everything. That was proof, and he knew it. The table seemed to shift, the atmosphere changed, like she also knew something was off. The waiter brought 2 slices of cake. Caio watched closely this time. Same shape, same glaze, same plate, identical to that night. But this time, he was ready. While Lorena looked at her phone, Caio got up, pretended to go to the restroom, but circled around the restaurant. He found the manager and explained that he needed to switch the plates quickly without her noticing, for personal reasons. The manager, slightly confused, agreed. Caio handed one of the cakes to a waiter who returned with another identical one. He went back to the table as if nothing had happened. Lorena was still on her phone. When she saw him approach, she put it down and picked up her spoon. "I'm already drooling," she said, laughing, digging into the cake, taking the first bite. Just like I remembered." Caio pretended to eat, but watched her every move, her eyes, her breathing, the rhythm of her voice. After the 3rd bite, she stopped. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing. I think I ate too fast." She drank some water, smiled again. "I'm fine." Caio swallowed hard. The conversation slowed. Lorena seemed tired, her eyelids drooping, barely moving. Suddenly, she leaned on the table with one hand and said, "I think I need some air." He stood up right away. "Come on, I'll go with you." She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. "I'm dizzy, really dizzy." The waiter noticed and ran over. "Is everything all right?" Caio replied. "She's not feeling well. I think it was the cake." The whole restaurant stopped and stared. Lorena collapsed to her knees, her eyes slowly closing, her arms trembling like leaves in the wind. Panic took over the scene. Caio knelt beside her, gripping her hand tightly. In that moment, everything became clear. She hadn't stopped. She had never stopped. The distant sound of the ambulance echoed in Caio's head as he finally returned home. The image of Lorena fainting in the restaurant, eyes rolling back, her limp body falling against the chair, wouldn't leave his mind. The ride to the hospital was completely silent. No words, no sounds, except for the noise of the city rushing past the window. The paramedics worked with precision, hooked her up, monitored her vitals, kept her stable until the ER. Caio couldn't go in with her. He stayed in the waiting room, heart pounding, mind racing through what would come next. A nurse walked by, then another. Finally, a doctor arrived. She sedated. Her blood pressure dropped very quickly. We ran some tests and found traces of poison in her system. Caio couldn't hide his reaction. He brought his hand to his mouth and muttered a curse, almost under his breath. "Is there someone she knows who might have done this?" the doctor asked. He shook his head, speechless. "The police have already been notified. They should be here within the next few hours." Caio nodded in thanks and left. He didn't want to stay. Waiting wouldn't change anything. That night had already taken everything from him, or almost everything. The next day, he woke up with a crushing urgency in his chest. Something was screaming to be heard. The girl, Luna. Since she'd appeared at the restaurant warning him about the dessert, Caio hadn't been able to find her again. Now, with everything confirmed, she was the only one who truly knew what was behind it all. Caio began looking for her. He drove around the restaurant's neighborhood. He asked guards, doormen, street vendors. He showed a photo taken from the security camera, the image of the girl entering the restaurant. No one knew anything. No one remembered. Some said they'd seen similar girls, but nothing certain. He decided to go to a shelter for children in a distant neighborhood, an old place known for taking in tough cases. He spoke with the director, showed Luna's photo. "She passed through here a few months ago, but she ran away," the woman said, flipping through a worn file. "She never stayed long. They said she was scared, ran from everyone, afraid of men." "Afraid of what? Of being beaten?" Caio asked. "Maybe, or worse. These kids carry things we can't even imagine." The director sighed. Caio stayed silent. The woman continued, "But look, if she came to you, it's because she felt she could trust you. They don't do that with just anyone." That sentence hit him hard. If Luna trusted him, then he must have done something right. But the truth was, she was really gone now. As he left the shelter, a cleaning lady grabbed Caio by the arm. "Sir, you're looking for the girl in the photo, right?" "Yes. I saw her yesterday near the Villa Alto fair. She was asking for fallen fruit. I spoke to her quickly and gave her some bread. But then a man showed up, grabbed her by the arm and took her away. I was scared and didn't do anything. He was tall, thin, wearing a black cap and had a backpack." Caio's blood froze in his veins. He had forced her to leave. She had tried to resist, but he got angry, cursed, yelled, "You want to sleep on the street again?" "Yes." At that point, she stopped fighting, went with him, and before disappearing around the corner, she had given him a look he still couldn't erase from his mind. Caio thanked her and went straight to Commissioner Amaral. He showed the security footage, told him about the woman at the market, explained everything he knew. The commissioner listened carefully, without interrupting, but with the kind of expression worn by someone who had seen this kind of situation too many times before. "Caio, this girl might be caught up in something much bigger. Trafficking, exploitation, scams. She could even be used by that Lorena. We'll open a missing person case and upload her photo into the system. But if that man is the same from the video, then she might be under his control, not by choice. I have to find her, Commissioner. I understand, but these people are professionals. They vanish like smoke." But Caio didn't give up. The next day, he went to the Villa Alto market. He arrived early before the trucks brought the goods. He asked the vendors, the local homeless, old acquaintances from the neighborhood. No one knew anything. Some didn't even want to talk, but a can collector shared something strange. "Last night, I saw a white van driving slowly near the railway. The windows were dark, but I could make out two shapes inside. One looked small, like a child. The other, a man." "What time?" "Around 8. I got suspicious, but they disappeared quickly. Caio headed toward the railroad. It was a forgotten part of the city, full of abandoned lots, graffitied walls, tall weeds. He walked for hours. No sign, no trace of Luna. It was as if she had vanished. On the way back, he stopped at a red light. It was almost dark. Across the street, he saw a little girl running. For a second, he nearly jumped out of the car, but it wasn't her. His heart took a long time to settle. He got home exhausted, pulled out his phone and opened Luna's picture again. For the 1000th time, he looked at that frightened, dirty but determined face. He wondered what she might be going through, if she was safe, if she was even alive. He turned on the TV just for some background noise. He stayed on the couch motionless, mind racing. Then, during the local news, a report came on about street children, and in the corner of the screen, for less than a second, he saw the silhouette of a child from behind, wearing the same pink dress he remembered, hair tied up with a crooked bow. He froze, grabbed the remote, and rewound. He paused and brightened the screen, and there, though blurry, she was Luna. Somewhere in that city, she was still alive, still waiting for help, and he wouldn't stop until he found her. The TV was still on when Caio's phone vibrated. It was a message from the hospital, brief and direct, but enough to freeze his blood. Patient Lorena R. has had a sudden downturn. Return to the hospital as soon as possible. He jumped up without thinking twice, grabbed his car keys, wallet, and slammed the door behind him. He stumbled down the stairs, got into the car, started it, and took off. His head was spinning, chest tight, hands sweating. The drive felt endless. Traffic was chaotic, horns blaring, motorcycles zipping everywhere. But he heard nothing. He was only thinking about what could have happened. If she really was involved in this whole scheme, why had she suddenly worsened? Was it the food, or had someone tried to finish the job? At the hospital, he ran to the front desk and said his name. The receptionist didn't even have to check. She already knew. She's in the ER, just taken to ICU. Her blood pressure crashed again. Caio's legs shook, but he stayed standing. He waited in the hallway, eyes locked on the sliding doors, as doctors and nurses came and went with serious faces. No one looked him in the eye. The silence was heavy with meaning. 20 minutes later, the same doctor from the night before came out. Her coat was stained, her expression grave. She went straight to Caio. She went into respiratory arrest. We managed to revive her, but the situation is serious. The toxin is spreading faster than expected. The poison she ingested was meant to kill slowly, but it looks like someone increased the dose. Increased how? Either she kept ingesting it, or someone added more without her knowing. Caio said nothing. His stomach twisted. The doctor continued, "She's being taken to the ICU. But I want to give you some advice. If you have anything important to say or ask, do it now." Caio felt himself being pushed toward a place he never wanted to go. The idea that Lorena might die without him understanding what had really happened was unbearable. Caio needed to look her in the eyes, hear the truth from her. He had to know if Luna was involved, if this was all part of a larger plan, or if something even darker was behind it. A few minutes later, a nurse called him and took him to the ICU, where Lorena lay, surrounded by machines, wires in her arm, a nasal catheter, and a face much paler than he remembered. She looked like a different person. No makeup, none of her usual confidence, fragile. When he walked in, she slowly turned her head. Her eyes were open but small, heavy. "You came?" she said weakly. "Yes, they told me you got worse." A faint, nearly invisible smile escaped her lips. "You switched the plates, didn't you?" Caio stayed silent for a few seconds. "I did. I knew." She tried to adjust herself in bed, but a groan of pain stopped her. Caio stepped closer. "Why, Lorena? Tell me the truth now. I won't yell, I won't lose it, but I need to know." She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, she seemed more angry at herself than anyone else. "I didn't want to do this to you, I swear. It was supposed to be easy, quick, but you weren't like the others." She breathed in deeply, struggling. "Because I had no choice. Rodrigo found me. He said if I didn't play along, he'd destroy everything. Me, her, the child." Caio's heart pounded faster. Lorena nodded slightly. "She's not my daughter." but I've taken care of her since she was little. Her mother died, and Rodrigo used her to distract victims, to get her into his schemes. Until I tried to escape, hide her, live a clean life with you. Caio moved even closer, but Rodrigo had found out everything. He told me if I didn't poison you, he'd take her back, make her disappear, and no one would ever find her. And you did it. I tried to go slow. I gave you a small dose. I thought there'd be time to get her away, to get you out. But Luna had seen her and approached you. She had disobeyed. She had never done that before. Caio felt the world spinning. Where is she now? Lorena hesitated. A hideout. It changes all the time, but there's a place, an old warehouse near the old road. I tried to take her there once. There's a fallen tree in front. That's their meeting point. He always shows up there. Rodrigo still has Luna? She nodded. He won't let her go. Not now. Not after everything that's happened. Caio took out his phone and wrote everything down. He wanted to call the police right away, but he had to leave the hospital first. Before leaving, he looked at Lorena one last time. She looked like she was fading, face sweaty, eyes slowly closing. "Forgive me," she whispered. He stood still, speechless. He left the room, walked down the hall, and found Commissioner Amaral at the front desk. "I got your message. They told me she got worse." Lorena had talked, told them where the girl might be, said the name. "Rodrigo." Caio nodded. "He's with Luna and might run any second." The commissioner's face turned serious. "Then we act now." Caio knew there was no more time to waste. He had to race against the clock to save Luna before it was too late. Commissioner Amaral didn't waste a second. Once outside the hospital, he called headquarters and requested backup immediately. The vague details Lorena had provided were enough to raise serious concern for the child's safety. Old warehouse, abandoned road, fallen tree out front. Clues were vague, but Amaral had handled worse cases where no one spoke. As he drove, he relayed the information via radio. The investigation team immediately began scanning city maps, cross-referencing data, searching for areas with abandoned warehouses near back roads, ideal places to hide people and things. Caio sat silently beside him, clenching his fists and staring out the window as if he could spot Luna on any corner. His mind raced non-stop, layering thoughts. The girl, Lorena, unconscious in intensive care. Rodrigo, someone he hadn't even seen yet, but who had already become the dark shadow behind all this chaos. Finally, a name with a face. "How many warehouses have you found?" he asked. 3. 2 are easy to access. We've already sent the addresses to the team, but the third is more isolated. It's at the end of a dirt road, near an old tire depot. That's the one with the fallen tree in front. Caio nodded without flinching. That's the one. They arrived at the station around 8 in the evening. The team was already in full swing. 4 patrol cars ready to roll out, officers in bulletproof vests, radios pressed to their ears, weapons loaded. The atmosphere was thick with urgency, but also with caution. When there's a child involved, everything becomes more delicate. No one wants to take unnecessary risks, but waiting too long isn't an option either. Before they left, Amaral pulled Caio aside. "I know you want to be there, but I can't bring you with the official team. It's protocol. If you want to follow in my car, I can't stop you, but I can't guarantee your safety." Caio didn't respond. He looked the commissioner straight in the eye, steady and silent. Amaral understood, gave him a pat on the shoulder, and returned to the patrol car. Half an hour later, they were on a dirt road. The air had shifted. A cold wind blew against their faces, lifting dust. Everything around was dark, no streetlights, no movement, just the sound of the patrol cars and the dashboard creaking over the dry asphalt. The warehouse appeared like a giant shadow in the middle of nowhere. It was large, made of rusted sheet metal, crooked panels, and a heavy iron gate locked with a thick chain. In front of it, lying sideways, was the fallen tree, thick, heavy, a natural barrier that seemed like a warning to stay away. The patrol cars stopped silently, headlights off. The officers got out slowly. Caio parked a few meters behind, feeling adrenaline flood every muscle. It was like being in a movie, but this time the scene was real, and Luna, was inside that place. Amaral signaled for 2 officers to check the back, 2 others to take the sides. He moved forward cautiously, flashlight in one hand, the other ready to draw his weapon. He knocked on the gate. No answer. He knocked again, harder. "Police! Is anyone in there?" Silence. Then a dull noise, like a board scraping the floor. Fast footsteps. One of the officers kicked the chain, and the lock broke with a loud snap. The gate creaked open, sending chills down their spines. All the flashlights switched on at once, and the team moved in carefully. Kaio stayed outside, trying to glimpse something through the cracks. Nothing, just shifting shadows and rising dust. Inside, the air was thick, a mix of dust and chemical smells. Scattered boxes, mattresses on the ground, empty bottles. And in one corner, hidden behind a fallen cabinet, something stirred. "Hands up!" shouted one of the officers. Rodrigo was there. Black cap, sweaty t-shirt, face covered in grime. He tried to run, but was immediately tackled by 3 officers. Handcuffs, yelling curses. And behind him, curled up in the corner, eyes wide, breathing fast. Luna, scared, trembling, but alive. The commissioner knelt beside her. "It's okay now. We're here to take you home." She looked around as if still in disbelief. She didn't say anything, just slowly reached out and grabbed Amaral's arm. From outside, Kaio only saw the moment an officer came out carrying her in his arms. His eyes welled up with tears. He ran toward them but stopped halfway. He waited for the commissioner to approach. "Is she okay?" he asked, nearly breathless. "She's weak, scared, but she's alive." Luna saw Kaio and gave him a faint smile, almost without strength, then rested her head on the officer's shoulder. That's when it hit him all at once. The relief, the rage, the tension of those past days crashing down in one wave. Rodrigo was shoved into the patrol car, head down, cursing and kicking. But it didn't matter anymore. The game was over. That night, Kaio finally felt like something had settled. But he knew the road ahead would still be long. Luna needed care, and the story wasn't over. The public hospital somehow seemed like a better place once Luna arrived. Maybe not because of the building, but because this time, Kaio was there with her. And that made all the difference. She was in the room, sitting on the exam table, holding a cup of juice, feet dangling and swaying gently. She had bathed, was wearing clean clothes, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail, but she looked like a different girl. Still scared, yes, still shy, but her eyes were alive. "So, Luna, how are you feeling?" Kaio asked, sitting beside her. She shrugged. "Better. It doesn't hurt anymore." "Are you hungry?" She nodded shyly, a faint smile forming. "I already ordered some sandwiches for you." That was the first real smile since she was rescued. A crooked, small smile that hit Kaio harder than he was ready to admit. Commissioner Amaral appeared at the door, holding a folder, a serious look on his face. "May I come in?" Kaio looked at Luna. She stiffened instantly, shoulders folding in. "It's okay," he said softly. "He's a good man. He's here to help." Luna eyed Amaral warily, then slowly nodded. Amaral stepped into the room. "Hi, Luna. My name is Amaral. I just want to talk to you a little. Is that all right?" She looked at Kaio again, seeking confirmation. He nodded calmly. "Just talk. Nothing bad." Luna took another sip of juice and adjusted herself on the bed. Amaral sat on the other side of the cot. "We're trying to understand who you are. Do you know where you're from? Who you lived with? Do you have any documents? Do you remember where you were born?" She was silent for a moment, nervously playing with the straw in her cup. "I don't remember the beginning. Just Aunt Marta's house. I lived there with other kids. We slept on the floor. I used to go out with a woman. She'd take me into places and have me watch people. What did this woman look like? Dark skin, long hair, always wore dark lipstick. She'd hit me with the heel of her sandal if I talked to strangers." Kaio closed his eyes. Hearing those words hurt. Amaral jotted down notes without interrupting. "And that man, Rodrigo?" Luna froze. Her body went stiff, like someone had hit a fear switch. She dropped the cup, hugged her knees, and slowly shook her head. "He said I was his. Said if I tried to run away, he'd do to me what he did to the girl from the apartment." "What girl?" one who disappeared. We never saw her again. She cried a lot. He took her away in a car, said if I acted like her, it'd be my turn. Kaio felt his throat tighten. Amaral softened his tone. It's okay. We got him. He can't hurt you anymore. You're safe now. Luna looked at Amaral, then at Kaio and stayed silent. Do you know your full name, or where you were born? She shook her head. I just remember that woman calling me Lunina, but when she got mad, she'd yell Luana. And once a man called me Carolina. I didn't understand. So they may have given you different names. She shrugged. Amaral let out a deep breath. All right, we'll try to find out who you really are. I'll ask you more questions later, only if you want, to help us. Luna still seemed withdrawn, but calmer. Later, Kaio and Amaral stood outside the room, in a corner of the hospital hallway. The commissioner spoke in a low voice. It's a complicated case, Kaio. No documents, no records. No one reported a missing child matching her description. She might have been taken when she was very little, or registered under a different name that was later erased. And now? How do we find out? We start with the basics. We'll take her fingerprints, do a DNA test, check the national database. It could take time, but if she passed through any official agency, we'll find her. Kaio nodded but looked restless. What if they don't find anything? Amaral didn't sugarcoat it. Then it becomes an open case. And in this country, open cases like this become statistics, unless someone keeps fighting for her. Kaio stood still, staring at the door where Luna was. And in that cold hospital hallway, he made a decision. I won't stop. In the following days, he searched everywhere, NGOs, lawyers, psychologists. He asked for help, consulted adoption and child protection experts. Meanwhile, Amaral and his team investigated Aunt Marta, the only name Luna remembered. They found a woman by that nickname who had run an informal shelter on the east side of the city. But when they got there, the place was abandoned. Peeling walls, torn mattresses, the smell of mold and rats. Neighbors said she'd disappeared after a police raid, another trace erased. Meanwhile, Rodrigo remained in jail, but silent. During interrogation, he laughed and demanded a lawyer, denied knowing Luna, claimed he was being falsely accused. The police knew he was lying, but they needed proof, witnesses, a direct link to child trafficking, to the scams with Lorena, to the threats. Kaio visited Luna every day. He brought toys, comic books, grape juice, pão de queijo. Sometimes she didn't speak, just listened to him tell stories like that was enough, like she finally had someone she could trust. During one of those visits, she looked at him and asked, "If no one finds out who I am, will I disappear?" Kaio swallowed hard. "No, never. We'll find out everything, and even if it takes time, you'll never be alone." Lei smiled just a little, shyly. "You're like a father to me, you know." Those words hit Kaio straight in the heart. He tried to hide it, but his eyes welled up. "Maybe one day I really will be." She shook her head. "I want that." Kaio didn't respond, he just took her hand. In that moment, his name didn't matter anymore. What mattered was making sure she didn't disappear again. Kaio stayed in front of the computer, the screen's glow lighting up his tired face. It was nearly dawn, and the hospital slept in silence. Luna was sleeping in the next room, while he sat alone in a small side room, surrounded by scattered documents and notes scribbled on notebook paper. Thanks to a friend who owed him a long overdue favor, Kaio had managed to access a police database. Not official, not legal, but it was the only way to get to the bottom of things. The name Lorena was no longer just his ex. It had become a key piece of a much bigger puzzle, and he had to put it together before anyone else got hurt. He typed Juliana Braga, her real name, the one Lorena had used years ago. Before she vanished, there had been an old case in Belo Horizonte, fraud. The victims were wealthy, lonely men, entrepreneurs, investors, all caught in the same trap. The scheme was always the same. The woman appeared as if by chance, seduced quickly, then disappeared with money, cards, passwords, or forged documents. In one case, the police report was clear. She had used a fake name and was identified through cloned card transactions. Damages exceeded 100,000 reais. The physical description matched Lorena. The photo was blurry, but the way she walked, her loose hair, her confident posture, it was her. Caio paused the video, took a deep breath. His heart was pounding. Scrolling further, he found another story, this time in Curitiba. A 52-year-old businessman was found dead in a hotel room, cardiac arrest. But something didn't add up. The autopsy revealed a substance in his body that shouldn't have been there, an illegal toxin, like a sleeping pill, only stronger. The hotel registry listed a woman who had checked in as Carla Mendez, a fake name. She paid in cash and vanished without a trace, but a hallway camera caught her leaving the next day. Even with a hat and dark glasses, Caio recognized her. It was Lorena, without a doubt. It felt like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just a crazy plan or a lapse in judgment. She'd done it before more than once. The question now was, how many men had fallen into the same trap, and how many hadn't been as lucky as he was? He closed the laptop carefully, as if the weight of that truth still hung in the air. He rubbed his face, trying to gather his thoughts, and the next day he went straight to the police station. He arrived early before Chief Amaral and asked to make an official statement. He wanted to put everything he knew in writing. Amaral, tired but focused, listened. Lorena, or Juliana, wasn't just part of the scam, Caio said. She was the center of it. Rodrigo may be the boss, but she made things happen. She was with me, living with me, while all of this was going on. She lied, looking me right in the eyes. Amaral crossed his arms, serious. And why do you think she got involved with you? Money was only part of it. At some point she hesitated, tried to get out. That's when Rodrigo and the others started threatening her, and Luna became the center of the blackmail. You think she changed her mind? I think so. It's hard to know how much, but she was scared. She tried to run, but she was in too deep. The chief nodded. And the girl? Any updates? Nothing concrete about her identity. I know, but there's more. Luna isn't just a victim. She saw everything. She heard conversations, lived through things no one should. She might be the key to understanding the whole group. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Luna was slowly waking up. For the first time in weeks, she'd slept through the night without nightmares. Caio came to visit and found the psychologist already by her side, speaking softly, asking gentle questions. After the psychologist left, Caio sat next to her. Did you sleep well? She nodded. I dreamed about a party. There was cake and hot dogs. Was it a nice party? Yeah, you were there too. He smiled. Then it must have been a real party. She stayed quiet, playing with the blanket's edge. That woman, Lorena, she was bad. Caio took a moment to respond. She did bad things, but she also tried to protect you. It's complicated. I know. Sometimes people make the wrong choices while trying to do the right thing. She said she'd take me away from him, but she never could. She tried. One time we hid at an old gas station. She told me not to leave, that she'd go get food, but he found us and brought me back. She got beat up. Caio felt a mix of anger and pity. It was like witnessing the story from both inside and outside at the same time. Now everything was starting to make sense. Later, Amaral called Caio to show him something new. The police had finally identified the phone number Lorena had used before disappearing under her old identity. It was a prepaid cell, hard to trace, but luckily some messages had been saved in a SIM card backup. Messages from Rodrigo, threats like, either fix this now or you'll be the one to disappear. The girl's not going anywhere until you do your part. You think that playboy's gonna save you? No one saves a traitor. Those words confirmed everything. She had tried to run, to protect the girl, and that's why she became a target. Rodrigo was the kind of man who couldn't stand losing control. Lorena's past, until then just a shadow, now had a name, a face, and real consequences. Caio knew that if they truly wanted to protect Luna, many obstacles still lay ahead, because Rodrigo wasn't acting alone, and the world Lorena came from didn't end with just the three of them. That morning the sky was grey, threatening rain, but the air was still warm. Caio woke up feeling lighter, different from the days before. This time, he had a plan. Luna had slept through the night, was eating better, able to rest without jumping at every noise. The hospital psychologist said she was beginning to trust. Speaking little, but her body was more relaxed, more present, less tense. He decided it was time to take her out of there, at least for a few hours. The hospital routine wasn't helping. She needed to see people, see the street, to feel like the world was bigger than those white walls. He packed a backpack with 2 juice boxes, some cookies, candy, and a little cap from the pharmacy. He stopped by the hospital, signed the responsibility form, and walked out holding Luna's hand like it was the most precious thing in the world. She was simple: jeans, a loose t-shirt, old sneakers. Her hair was tied back messily, but her eyes took in everything, like she was seeing the world for the first time. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. "There's a little street market nearby. Then I want to take you to a beautiful place. Are there dogs?" Kaio smiled. "Maybe. If there are, we'll pet them, okay?" She smiled and gripped his hand tighter. They arrived at the neighborhood market, a modest place but full of color. Fruit, pastries, cheap toys, soft music from an old speaker, a relaxed atmosphere like a lazy Saturday. Luna stopped at a stand selling used books. She picked up a Chico Bento comic and flipped through it slowly. Eyes shining, Kaio bought it for her right away. "Really?" she asked, surprised. "Really? It's yours now?" She hugged it like a treasure. They walked a bit more, drank sugarcane juice, shared a cheese pastel. She didn't talk much, but watched everything with curiosity, pointing at things, asking names, smiling shyly. Kaio noticed she liked flowers. She stopped to smell every single one, even the fake ones. After the market, they went to a little park hidden behind old buildings. There was a playground with a slide, a swing, and a rusted seesaw. But to Luna, it was an amusement park. "Can I play?" "Of course, go." She ran to the swing, climbed on by herself, and started to gently rock. The breeze brushed her face, and for the first time, Kaio heard a clear, fearless laugh, a real child's laugh. He stayed on the bench, just watching. In that silence, heavy with hope, something inside him changed. He wasn't just helping a child anymore. He was truly protecting her. And that changed everything. "Kaio," she yelled from the swing's peak. "Yes? When I grow up, I want to have a place with a dog, my own bed, and lots of plants like at the market." He smiled. "You will, and so much more." She stopped, got out, and sat next to him. "Do you think I'm bad?" Kaio froze. "What?" "Because I saw things. I helped them. I went to the restaurant. I took things from people. I was an accomplice, wasn't I?" Kaio's heart tightened. He looked straight into her eyes. "Luna, you were a child surrounded by bad people. You didn't have a choice. What matters is that you're here now, and you chose to do the right thing." She stayed quiet, looking at the ground. "Do you believe me?" "With all my heart." Luna rested her head on his shoulder and stayed there, saying nothing else. It was on that bench, in that square, that Kaio realized they were connected in a way words couldn't explain. When they returned to the hospital, she seemed more confident. She even played with the nurse, talked about the pastel, the comic book, the dog they had seen sleeping in the shade. It was like she had come back whole. But what Kaio didn't expect was still to come. As he helped her take off her shoes and lie down, Luna said without looking at him, "Today I remembered something." "What?" "I heard Rodrigo talking to a man on the phone. He said, 'If things go wrong with Kaio, plan B is ready. He has a sister, right?'" Kaio froze. "Do you have a sister, Kaio?" His blood ran cold. He did have a sister he hadn't seen in months. At that moment, he understood that everything was still in motion, that the story wasn't over, and that other people's lives could be in danger. Luna might have known more than she realized. Kaio didn't sleep a wink that night. The phrase Luna had said that afternoon at the park, so simple, kept echoing in his head. "You have a sister, right?" It seemed like an innocent, childlike question, but the moment she said it, something inside him had triggered like an alarm. Luna wasn't making it up. She had really heard those words. She knew exactly what she was saying. And the worst part was, Kaio did have a sister, Camilla. younger than him, lived on her own. She was a photographer, always traveling, searching for the perfect shot. They weren't very close, they talked occasionally, but she hadn't replied to his messages in months. Something was wrong. He grabbed his phone and opened his message history with Camilla. The last message was a voice note he'd sent inviting her to their mother's birthday. She had seen the message, her status confirmed it, but hadn't responded. No sign of life. He tried calling. It rang, then went to voicemail. He called again. Silence. He called his mother, who confirmed the disappearance. She hasn't answered in a month. I thought she was traveling. Caio felt a knot in his stomach. The next morning, he went straight to the police station. Amaral, looking tired, listened to the story. She heard Rodrigo say that if the plan with Caio failed, plan B involved your sister. The inspector paused. Are you sure? Absolutely. And where is she? Caio didn't know. No one knew. This is serious. We'll check everything, movements, messages, whatever we can. A team was sent to Camilla's apartment. Meanwhile, Caio went back to the hospital and found Luna flipping through a comic book. She seemed to have something to say. Luna, do you remember what you said about Rodrigo and my sister? Yes, she said quietly. They said she would be the new bait, that she seemed trustworthy, and if someone approached her, it would look natural. I heard him show her photo to a woman. He said, "This is Caio's sister, she's easy to fool." Caio's heart started racing. And that woman? Blonde, tall, always in heels, bossy. I think her name was Rebecca or Roberta. She spoke like she was in charge. Caio felt the world spin. It wasn't just Rodrigo and Lorena in the game. There was a woman above them, and now she might be the one after his sister. Soon after, Amaral got a call from the team. The apartment door was locked from the inside. They had to break in. Camilla wasn't there, but they found a business card for a modeling agency and a signed contract for a photo shoot in another region, with a ticket bought 2 weeks ago. The agency's email, no reply. Phantom company. Caio went cold. Camilla had been lured with a new trick, using her profession to deceive her. He ran to Luna. Did you hear anything about this agency or the photo shoot? She furrowed her brow. The blonde lady said she would think it was just a job, but she would disappear. Caio ran to Amaral. They used a fake modeling agency to take my sister. This is human trafficking, national level. Federal police would need to be called. Meanwhile, Luna was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. There's one more thing, she whispered. They had a name for her. A code. The next doll. Caio froze. Doll was the name given to the kidnapped girls, whose entire identity was altered before being sold. The silence that followed was the heaviest of all. It was no longer just about protecting Luna. It was about stopping the creation of more dolls. The precinct was quiet that night, only the hum of a fan and a few distant voices from another room. Caio sat in a small room, the dim yellow light barely lighting the space. Next to him, Inspector Amaral stared at the open laptop screen, while across from them, a cybercrime specialist from the federal police spoke calmly, but her words hit hard. Caio, the name of the agency used to trick your sister came up in an investigation last year, she began. It's the same scam that happened in Belém, where 3 young women disappeared after accepting a photo shoot. All between 20 and 30 years old, with public social media profiles. Beautiful, independent, single, exactly the kind of victim they're looking for. Caio swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the news. Were they able to find them? He asked in a low voice. 2 were found, one in Bolivia, sedated with a fake identity, the other in the south of the country in similar condition. The 3rd is still missing, the specialist explained. The link between the cases is the blonde woman Luna mentioned. She's the mastermind behind the operation. We don't know her real name, but she uses fake names for every job. In Belém, she was Roberta. In Rio, she called herself Carla. In Sao Paulo, she was Vanessa. Amaral slammed his hand on the table, irritated. That woman is the brain. Rodrigo was just the enforcer. Caio stared at the inspector, thinking about Lorena, Juliana, or whatever her name was. He knew she knew something, maybe just part of it. Rodrigo was the link between her and the rest of the ring. And when she tried to run, she became a problem they wanted to eliminate. They used me, Caio said, more to himself than the others. I was just the bridge, the attractive target, so they could move on to the next. And the next was your sister, the specialist added. We believe the plan was to infiltrate your life, gain your trust, and use it as a way to reach her. Lorena got in, showed intimacy, photos, trips. That's how she approached your sister with a convincing excuse. The job offer was just the initial bait. The real poison was the final step to close the trap. Caio remained silent. It wasn't just about money or a romantic scam. It was something bigger, colder, calculated, sick. They called the victims dolls. Did Luna hear that? He asked, trying to understand. It's the gang's internal code name, the specialist replied. It shows up in many of the seized documents, even in notes found on their phones. They prepped these girls for sale, fake IDs, photo shoots, fake social media profiles. They stop being people and become products. Caio stood still, staring at the screen, heart clenched. Amaral took a deep breath and said gravely, "Your sister could be involved right now." At that moment, the phone rang at the precinct. Amaral answered immediately, listened silently for a few seconds, his eyes growing sharp. "Where is she?" he asked tensely. More silence. Then, "Okay, send me the location immediately." He hung up and looked at Caio. "We have a lead. A border agent down south identified a woman matching your sister's profile with a fake passport, headed toward Argentina, accompanied by a blonde woman. The description matches Vanessa." Caio shot up from his seat. "We need to leave now. I've already sent the data to the federal police in that region. They're tracking the vehicle, but haven't managed to stop it yet. They're on the move. Do you think they'll get her?" Caio asked, his chest tight with fear. "If they don't in the next 2 hours, she might disappear for good." Caio rushed out of the room, called the airport, tried to buy a ticket, but there were no flights to that area until evening. He called a friend who worked with private helicopters, tried to arrange a ride, transport, anything. "I'll pay whatever it takes," he said, "but I have to get there today." 2 hours later, Caio was already airborne, alone, heart pounding. A small, noisy helicopter crossed the sky, heading south. The only goal of that flight was simple: stop his sister from becoming another pawn in the game of that dangerous gang. Meanwhile, on a road near the border, a federal police patrol was tailing a silver SUV. Inside, 2 women. The passenger looked unconscious, barely aware. The driver, wearing sunglasses and her hair pulled into a tight bun, kept accelerating. Tension rose with every mile. The patrol radio crackled. "The road ahead is blocked. They'll have to stop." 10 minutes later, the vehicle was surrounded. The blonde woman got out with an eerie calm, as if everything was normal. She claimed to be a businesswoman, explained that her friend had fallen ill, and they were headed to the nearest hospital. But her documents had already been flagged. Fake. Inside the SUV, Camilla was drugged, but alive. Caio arrived only that evening, heading straight to the hospital where he found his sister. Seeing her there, tired but alive, made his whole body tremble. Camilla slowly opened her eyes, confused. "Caio, what's going on?" He gripped her hand tightly. "I'll explain later. Just rest now." Later, more lucid, she told him everything. A woman she met at an art fair had invited her, praised her work, talked about contacts in Buenos Aires, contracts, international exhibitions, glamour. It all seemed like a dream. Camilla had been thrilled, told no one, then vanished. "I thought it was my big break," she said, ashamed. Caio held her in a silent hug. Outside the room, Amaral waited. They now knew the monster they were up against was far bigger than they'd imagined. "Do we know their name?" Caio asked. "Not yet, but we will." At the station, the blonde woman stayed silent. When they showed her a picture of Luna, she smiled, a cold smile that silenced the room. The game was far from over, and the real plan was even scarier than anyone thought. Kaio thought that after saving his sister, he'd finally be able to breathe, slow down, get life back in order. But within 24 hours, he realized the battle had only just begun. That afternoon, coming back from the hospital where Camilla was still recovering, he stopped by a supermarket and bought some treats for Luna: juice, cream-filled cookies, a box of colored pencils. He wanted to give her a bit of the normal routine she'd lost, a piece of ordinary childhood. He even thought about enrolling her in a school, maybe. But those thoughts vanished when he saw a note stuck under his windshield wiper. Plain white paper, small handwriting, written by hand. "Return the girl or someone else in your family will disappear." Kaio stood still, rereading the note, his chest tight, breath stuck. He looked around. A quiet street, people walking by, slow-moving cars. Nothing suspicious, nothing out of place. But someone had been there, someone who knew which car was his, where he'd go, and maybe was still watching. He locked the doors, took a deep breath, and drove to the precinct, holding the note like it was a ticking bomb. He found Amaral looking tired, and threw the paper on the table. Amaral read it silently, then sighed. They're still free, or paying someone to act for them. He ordered the note scanned for fingerprints, but warned, they're professionals. They wear gloves, fake handwriting, do everything to leave no trace. Now they're sending direct messages. They're not hiding anymore. That's both good and bad. Good because it means they're scared. Bad because it means they're capable of anything. Kaio ran a hand over the back of his neck. "So what now?" Amaral replied. "Now we protect your family. I've already requested a detail for your mother. Patrols near the hospital. Luna needs protection, but officially she's not your daughter, nor under state custody. She's in limbo, vulnerable." "What if I request temporary custody?" Kaio asked. "That takes time. Psychological evaluation, social worker review. Weeks, sometimes months." Silence fell. "I don't have that kind of time." The next day, Luna was drawing while sitting on the hospital bed. A simple little house, a garden, and a tree. Not perfect, but full of color. The place where she wanted to feel safe. Kaio sat next to her and asked, "Luna, do you remember anyone else from the group?" She looked at him. "I remember Zhuka." "Who's that?" "The driver. He took us places. He was nice to me, weird with adults. Always asked, 'Are you sure it's today?'" Kaio jotted that down on his phone. "Where is he now?" "He disappeared after Lorena fought with Rodrigo. I think he got scared." "Do you think he's still involved?" Luna shrugged. "He knew everything, but I don't know if it was because he wanted to or because he was scared." Kaio wanted to ask more, but Luna changed the subject. "Why are they mad now?" "Because you told what you knew, and that could destroy them." She looked at him, serious. "Will you give me back?" "What?" "The note on your car. I saw you read it. They told you to return me, didn't they?" Kaio was speechless for a moment. The girl was too sharp to miss anything. "I'll never give you back, Luna, even if the whole world demanded it. Even if I had to hide with you in the woods, I won't let you go back to that life." She gave a small, crooked smile. "Promise, promise." Promising was easy. Keeping the promise, not so much. The threats kept coming, and the gang was still out there, alive, organized, and furious. That same night, Kaio's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered, heart racing. "Hello?" Silence. Then a man's voice, rough and distorted, like filtered through a device. "Did you really think you could win this game? You've only moved a few pieces. We still control the board." Kaio tried to stay calm. "Who is this?" "You know who. Keep playing hero, and the next person to disappear won't get a second chance. We've already taken out people like you, and we'll do it again." Kaio gripped the phone tightly. "If you touch her, we'll touch her again, and again. You have until tomorrow to get that girl out of the city, or you'll learn the hard way." The call ended. Kaio stood frozen, phone to his ear, listening to the heavy silence on the other end, chest tight, like he was carrying a heavy stone. That night, he slept with a chair against the door, everything locked, bathroom light on. Luna slept beside him, clutching her pillow, one of her drawings hidden under her arm. He knew one mistake, one small slip, and it could all be over. The war they were fighting had only just begun. The day started quietly, almost like a breath after all the tension. Clear skies, the hospital quiet, as if holding its breath. Luna woke up early before breakfast, asked to brush her teeth by herself, even made the bed. She seemed lighter, more confident. Kaio, who had spent the night on the room's sofa, watched her with a mix of pride and a fear that refused to fade. It was like seeing a flower trying to grow in rocky soil, beautiful but fragile. He had promised to take her to a community school nearby, something simple, just so she could see other kids and feel that life could be normal again. The psychologist said it was a step forward. Luna even looked excited, not saying much, just showing it in her bright eyes. "Will there be a snack?" she asked while tying her shoes. "Probably. Want to eat there? Only if there's grape juice." "That would be amazing," she said with a shy smile. They left the hospital around 10 a.m. A police patrol circled the area, as ordered by Commissioner Amaral. Kaio checked out at the front desk, signed Luna's release, and told them they'd be back by evening. Everything felt too light, a rare peace. When the car stopped in front of the school, Luna looked curiously at the simple, colorful building with kids' drawings taped to the windows and laughter echoing inside. "Go ahead, keep it if you like. I'll wait here, okay?" She nodded and entered with a smiling teacher. Kaio leaned against the car, scrolling through his phone, exchanging messages with Amaral, trying to get information about the blonde woman from the gang. 20 minutes of calm, 20 minutes before a scream ripped through the air. "Kaio!" He dropped the phone and ran toward the school entrance. A frantic staff member ran up to him. "A man took her. He said he was her uncle. We tried to stop him, but he pulled her away with force, shoved her into a car, and sped off." Kaio's heart stopped. His breath vanished. His head spun. "What car?" "Black, no license plate, tinted windows. He left through the back road." Kaio jumped into his car, hands shaking, started the engine, and called Amaral on speaker as he accelerated. "They took her." "What?" "Black car, no plate. Said he was the uncle." "I'm activating everything." "Which way did he go?" "South. I'm in pursuit." At the first curve, he nearly collided with a truck. His blood pounded in his ears. He could barely breathe. He scanned for any black car, but the road was packed. Speeding was dangerous, but he had no choice. "Stay on the line," Amaral said. "I'm sending out roadblocks at city exits." Kaio weaved through traffic, honking, yelling to himself. At a red light, he looked everywhere. Nothing. He turned on the GPS. Still nothing. The feeling of helplessness crushed him. The world felt blurred, torn from a good dream into a cruel nightmare. He parked hastily on the sidewalk, grabbed his hair in frustration, not understanding. Tears came without warning. He hit the steering wheel, trembled, shouted between fear and rage. He called the hospital. No one had passed through. Called the school. No one knew the man. It had all happened too fast. A man had arrived, claimed to be family, took Luna by the hand. When she resisted, he pulled her violently. A staff member tried to chase them, but the car drove off and vanished. Kaio's world collapsed. He had promised to protect her, and he'd failed. Hours later, Amaral sent a message. "We've got footage from a side camera. We're analyzing it. Hang in there." That evening, Kaio went to the station, heart in his throat. He sat in front of the monitor with the chief. On screen, a black car stops in front of the school. A man gets out, shaved head, neck tattoo, cap, face covered by a mask. He walks straight to the entrance. A minute later, he runs out carrying Luna. She struggles, tries to scream, but he throws her into the car, shuts the door, and speeds off. End of video. Kaio squinted, bit his lip, struggled to breathe. "I'll kill that bastard," he whispered. Amaral didn't respond. Only said, "We need to track that car, find out where they took her. We're cross-referencing data with homicide. We've found a pattern." But the chief hesitated. "Kaio, there's more. Tell me." "The blonde woman we arrested. She escaped this morning." Kaio froze. "How?" "During transfer, internal corruption. Someone helped her. She vanished without a trace." Kaio closed his eyes. It was her, the woman who ordered Luna's kidnapping, who was behind everything from the start. Now she was back. Luna had been taken, and for the first time, Kaio felt that their plan wasn't to keep her alive for long. The station felt smaller that hot, suffocating night. Outside, the distant wail of sirens barely reached Kaio's ears. All he could hear was his own frantic heartbeat. He paced back and forth, hands in pockets, eyes fixed on the computer screen where agents replayed the video over and over. Amaral was there too, serious and silent, but his gaze said everything. Time was running out, and Luna could already be far away. Suddenly, an officer came in and dropped an envelope on the table, the car's route analysis. "We found an old escape route," she said. "Same group used it 3 years ago." Amaral asked, "Where does it lead?" The answer came firmly. "An old warehouse, rural area on the city border, no signal, no cameras, almost invisible." Kaio rushed over. "What's the address?" They showed him a map. Back Road 143, near an abandoned dump. He grabbed his keys, but Amaral grabbed his arm. "You're not going alone." Kaio didn't want to wait, but neither did Amaral. 3 squad cars departed. Inside, tension was heavy, broken only by radio instructions. Kaio sat in the passenger seat, gripping the wheel tight, eyes tense in the dark. The road felt like a tunnel of shadows, surrounded by brush, no lights, no signal. The air reeked of burnt trash. They were close. The warehouse appeared on the left behind a broken fence. It looked abandoned, but the tire marks showed recent activity. "Lights on, no noise," Amaral ordered. They stepped out quietly. Kaio was in the rear, ready to act. Inside, darkness reigned. Flashlights revealed mattresses on the floor, empty bottles, cans, children's clothes. "Someone's been here recently," muttered an officer. Farther in, a makeshift barrier, an old bed, and in a corner, a headless doll. Kaio choked. "That's hers." He searched everywhere, calling, "Luna, I'm here, it's me." Silence. Amaral called for a halt. She might still be hidden, or already taken again. They had to move carefully. They found a small backpack. Inside, a folded piece of paper, a drawing of a house, a tree, a smiling girl, and next to her a stick figure with short hair labeled Kaio in messy letters. "She was here yesterday, Max," said the chief, pointing to fresh footprints at the exit, where the grass was crushed, a broken branch and a still warm cigarette butt. "We're close," Amaral said, "but they knew we'd come." It was a trap. The drawing was a message, bait left by Luna. Then the radio crackled. "Dispatch here, intercepted unauthorized call near East Tower. Someone mentioned moving the goods. Origin is 20 minutes from your location. Sending coordinates." Amaral's eyes lit up. They're still with her, but they're switching hiding spots. They want to make her disappear forever. Kaio swallowed hard. The car sped off. Tires slashing through mud, headlights blazing, radio buzzing. They were racing against time, against the darkness, trying to swallow them. Kaio gripped his seatbelt like he wanted to tear it off. Halfway there, the lead car braked hard. Everyone got out. In the road, a glass bottle with a rolled-up note inside. Amaral carefully opened it. "Kaio, if you go any further, she pays. Final warning." The chief crushed the note, suspicious. "Are they messing with us?" "No, they're watching. Means we're close." They resumed, faster, sharper, like soldiers in war. Kaio stared out the window, heart pounding. He had one thought. Luna is waiting, and I won't leave her again. After the bottle, it was all clear. They were being watched. The gang wasn't fleeing. They were taunting, testing. "We're in charge here." But Kaio decided, this ends now. They returned to the station, called in intelligence, and set a plan. "They want you to give up, to treat her as a bargaining chip. So pretend you're backing off," Amaral said. Kaio got it instantly. It was a bluff. The video would be simple but risky. Kaio saying he was quitting, taking Luna and disappearing, no trouble wanted. It would be sent to a gang contact, number tracked by police, used only for messages. Meanwhile, surveillance in the right places, undercover agents on the street, and a SWAT team hidden in another warehouse across the city. "I'll be the bait, whatever it takes," Kaio said. The next afternoon, they sent the video with a short message. She's worth more than anything. I'm out. But I want to see her one last time. Then I disappear. 5 minutes later, the reply. Last chance, tomorrow 10 p.m. Dead-end road behind Warehouse 24. Come alone. She'll be there 5 minutes. If you try anything, she vanishes forever. The chief showed the message to Kaio and the team. The tension was heavy. No one knew if they'd keep their word. It could be a trap, a trick, or the end. But it was their only shot. That night, Kaio didn't sleep. He sat on the station's couch, staring at the floor, reliving everything. Their first meeting at the restaurant, her laughter on the swing, the drawings, the doll. And now, she was in the hands of those who saw her as nothing but cargo. At 9:30 p.m., Kaio was at the meeting point. The road was truly a dead end, full of debris, a flickering crooked lamppost, and a 5-story abandoned building in the background. The air was thick. Something felt off. Kaio had a hidden mic in his ear. The police team was 400 meters away, ready if anything went wrong. Everything was synced. Amaral coordinated by radio. Stay calm. As soon as she arrives, confirm by saying, "Are you okay?" That's our cue to move. If it's dangerous, we go in only with that signal. Got it, Kaio replied, tense. 9:55 passed. Nothing. Then, suddenly, a black car slowly entered the road, headlights off, tinted windows. It stopped 5 meters from Kaio. The back door opened. Luna stepped out. Different clothes, hood up, hair tied, bruises on her arm, dazed look, but she was standing and breathing. Kaio felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "Luna," he whispered. She looked at him still. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, and in that moment, everything exploded. Police lights blazed, silent sirens wailed, armed officers emerged from every side. The black car tried to reverse, but a squad car blocked it. 2 armed men jumped out, but were instantly taken down. Kaio ran into the chaos and held Luna with all the strength he had. "Are you okay? I'm here. I'm back, remember?" She was crying, but it was a different kind of cry, relief mixed with the fear that it still wasn't over. Amid the noise of shouting and police orders, a figure stepped out of the abandoned building. She moved slowly in high heels, a dark dress, and tightly tied blonde hair. The blonde woman, the leader. She stopped in the middle of the street, arms raised, as if nothing could scare her. "Nice, huh?" she said, staring at Kaio. "All this for one little brat?" "It's over," Amaral shouted, aiming his gun. No, it's not over. It's just beginning." 2 armed men appeared at the windows of the building, but they were quickly taken down by snipers from a nearby rooftop. It was fast and precise. The blonde woman was handcuffed right there, still wearing the smile of someone who knew a secret. Luna trembled, clinging to Kaio's neck. "They won't come back, right? Never again?" he asked. "Never again," Amaral replied. But Kaio knew, even if the snake's head had been cut off, the body was still moving. After the operation that saved Luna, everything seemed slow, like the world was turning in slow motion. Police cars surrounded the street. The press was arriving, and Kaio held the girl like the world still wanted to rip her away. She was trembling, sweating, but not crying anymore. Her eyes said something else, exhaustion, not of the body, of the soul. The blonde woman was taken directly to the federal station. She didn't resist, didn't try to run, didn't scream. She got into the patrol car with an indifferent look. Her smile, even in handcuffs, was more disturbing than any scream of rage. Hours later, deep into the night, Kaio sat in front of the mirror in the station's bathroom. Dried blood on his collar, scratches on his arms, and the blank eyes of someone who hadn't slept in days. Amaral walked in with a different expression. She decided to speak. Kaio turned his head. "The blonde?" "Yeah, and it wasn't just a chat. It was much more." She stood and motioned for Kaio to follow her to the interrogation room. Inside, the woman sat handcuffed, head down, messy hair, smudged makeup, but her voice steady. "I want to talk to him. Only him." Amaral looked at Kaio. He took a deep breath, walked in, and sat on the other side of the table. They stared at each other for a few seconds. "Talk," he said. She looked toward the corner of the room where a camera was recording, then looked back at him. You want to know where the girl comes from, don't you? She's just a child used by your people. The rest are just details. That's where you're wrong. She gave a faint smile. This girl wasn't just used, she's the center. What? Luna isn't just another victim. She's the daughter of a woman in the gang, a woman who betrayed us. Kaio froze. Who? Marilia. We worked together for years. She was good at what she did, but she fell in love with a man, wanted out, ran away, hid the girl, tried to live a normal life. Rodrigo found her and made things worse, forced her back in, but just for a while. She tried to escape again, this time with the girl. Rodrigo took the girl. Marilia disappeared. And Lorena, what's her role? The woman smiled again, like she was about to reveal the best part. Lorena is Marilia's sister. She joined the gang to keep an eye on the girl, to take care of her. But when she got close to you, she saw a way out. She thought she could protect her niece and run from all of this. Kaio's mind was spinning. You're lying, right? There's more. She leaned in. Luna isn't just Marilia's daughter. Her father is Rodrigo. Silence fell over the room. Kaio swallowed hard, motionless. He raped Marilia when she tried to run. She got pregnant, tried to hide it, but we found out. Rodrigo had no mercy, no limits. He used his own daughter to control Marilia and later to punish Lorena, her sister, for trying to escape. Kaio's body trembled. You're monsters. The woman let out a dry, bitter laugh. No, Kaio. We're just a reflection of what society prefers not to see. We grow in the shadows, in the dark corners no one wants to look at. He stood up, rage burning inside him. Enough! But before he left, she added, there are many others involved. You think this is over? This is just one arm of the thing. The rest is spread out. Banks, lawyers, clinics, hospitals. Luna is just a piece that escaped the board, and now you're a problem for us. Kaio slammed the door behind him. In the next room, Amaral stood with a tense face. So Luna is Rodrigo's daughter. What? He repeated, stunned. And Lorena was her aunt. It was all much bigger than they thought. Amaral wiped her face, exhausted. Do you think the girl knows? No, and she won't. At least not now. He returned to the hospital, walked into the room where Luna was sleeping, sat on the edge of the bed, and stayed in silence. He watched her, so small yet so strong, the daughter of a monster, but no less deserving of peace. Kaio pulled out his phone, opened his notes app, and wrote, "It doesn't matter where she comes from. What matters is where I'll take her now." At the door, the commissioner appeared again. "There's something else. The blonde mentioned a name. Someone above Rodrigo. Who? Someone we don't know yet. But she said it." "Who said it?" Amaral looked at him seriously. "Mr. C, no one's ever seen his face." Time passed. Not much. Just enough for the dust to settle. But nothing was forgotten. Now, Luna lived with Kaio in a smaller apartment far from the chaos of the big city. A simple, quiet place with trees on the street, an old playground on the corner, neighbors who didn't ask too many questions. Exactly what Kaio wanted. A place where no explanations were needed. She still woke up scared sometimes, stayed silent for long minutes when someone unfamiliar knocked on the door. She slept with a light on, but there were days when she really smiled, while painting, listening to a favorite song, or when Kaio told his silly jokes just to see her react. He was now officially her legal guardian. The documents had been approved after a difficult process. The state realized it was safer for her to be with someone who had risked his life for her, rather than in temporary homes. A social worker had come, talked, observed, and left with teary eyes, and signed everything. But that wasn't all. There was an invisible side. Kaio lived on alert, phone always charged, door with 2 locks. He memorized license plates of cars he saw too often on the street. He even distrusted people who offered too much help, because he knew Mr. C was still out there. The blonde had been transferred to a high-security prison, but her name still echoed, in whispers between the lines. Amaral said it was impossible to trace him. He used intermediaries, codes, left no fingerprints. But they knew he existed. They knew he was still moving pieces on the board. One ordinary morning, Luna walked into the kitchen with a notebook in her hand. She had drawn a scene, her, Kaio, and a house in the middle of a field full of flowers. "Do you think this house really exists?" she asked, pointing at the paper. "I think we can build one like it," she smiled, but it didn't last long. What if the man in the picture comes back? Kaio knelt down, placed his hands on her shoulders. "He'll never come near. I promise. You promised before." That line hurt. "And then," she said, "you saved me, remember?" He nodded. "So now it's my turn to protect you. For real, not just with words, but with everything I have." That night, after she fell asleep, Kaio sat on the porch with a cup of cold coffee in hand. The moon lit up the yard, and the wind rustled the leaves of the tree across the street. A calm silence, strange for a mind that never stopped. His phone buzzed. Message from Amaral. "We intercepted another name. New member. Looks like Mr. C is rebuilding the network." Kaio replied, "Luna is the priority, always will be." He put the phone away, looked at the night again, and the next day, a letter arrived with no sender. Inside, a single phrase on a folded piece of paper. "You won this one. But the game isn't over." No signature, it wasn't needed. Kaio read it, tore it into pieces, and threw it in the trash. He turned off the living room light, walked to Luna's room, where she slept wrapped in her blanket, the drawing of the house under her pillow. He adjusted the sheets, kissed her lightly on the forehead, and whispered, "It will end, even if I have to hunt down every single piece myself." Outside, the silence seemed normal, but to Kaio, every minute was preparation. Evil had no face, but now it had a name. And sooner or later, it would face someone who wasn't willing to lose again. Did you enjoy today's story? Then subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share it with your friends. See you in the next video.